Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Gray. Well, we're of course going to preview the big match on Sunday. Just before we get started, just need to go through the anomalies as well. This is, of course, the Independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and all content is free. You can get us over at www.gersnet.co.uk, where you can get on the forum, read a few articles. We've had one up this week about Michael Beale, and you can obviously listen to the podcast here and get us over on Twitter at Gersnet Online. Kindly ask you if you can share it with all your friends as well. And also, just before we start, I would like to give a little message from our partners, Forest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years, and we're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com. And you can also visit the Forest Precision Executive Lounge. It's a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For more information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Right, so we may as well get started then. Sorry for the lateness, guys. We've made use of the 5 sub rule, and we've brought in another one. Technical difficulties, and thankfully Alec Anderson has stepped in to save the day. Alec, how you doing, mate?
No bad, Craig, no bad. A bit spaced, mate. I was just sitting down to enjoy the pod, and then realised I was going to be on it. So I'll be testing to see if my partner's any better or any worse when I'm completely no prepared. But just don't be calling me the Rabbi Matondo, that sub the night.
No, well, you would need to score for that to happen. So
this is true, mate. This is true. It's been a while.
The thing is, obviously, we've got a big game on Sunday, but it's been a really big week for Rangers as well. And I wanted to start with that. The chances are we might not even talk about the Celtic game today. No, we will. Don't worry, guys. We will talk about it. But the big news this week, Alec, obviously, Stuart Robertson announcing that he's going to be stepping down at the end of the season and replaced by James Bisgrove. What was your initial thoughts on that happening?
Just the power of the banner with the red cross through it. That's it. Just whatever you want. It seems to be that's the way to do things. I never thought it would come to this, and we're just going to ask the question: was this planned anyway, or has it been, fan pressure that's basically made that happen? I'm quite happy with, Bisgrove stepping in. I think I was making jokes on the WhatsApp group, the Gersnet WhatsApp group. As soon as it was announced that Stuart Robertson was going, as soon as Ross Wilson was going, I thought, Bisgrove will be stepping in to take over and folk will be raging. It's a wee joke, but it wasn't that far away. It's just a different position. But things are happening. Chairman's going, new chairman, things are moving. I just don't know if it's going to be we're moving in the right direction. I'm fairly happy with it, but the big one that's worrying me is just the director of football. I don't know what the score is there. Michael Beale seems to be talking more in his press conferences about how he's kind of covering for that, and then talking about how we almost like he's kind of hinting that we could do without one almost. So I don't know if that's just him trying to take the pressure off the board because we don't have a director of football straight in as a replacement for Wilson, or if it's actually trying to smooth the ground for us not getting one at all.
I think in terms of the director of football, I can see the club continuing with it at some point. I just think maybe at the moment when you've obviously already started preparing for the summer, the club maybe just think that there's no point in bringing someone in at the moment. I think if there is somebody that's going to be appointed, you'll probably see it at the end of the summer transfer window with a view to the winter one, because I actually think Michael Beale's kind of enjoying doing all the work himself.
He loves it. He's buzzing, isn't he?
Aye, you've never seen him happier when he's in control of finance, he's in control of the first team. Hopefully he just does a better job at the medical department than what I've had the last few months. But I mean, look, I will actually say this, and I will get my apologies out to everyone. I had to apologise on Twitter the other day as well, and this is what happens when you're wrong. You need to come up, you need to make sure that you apologise and, say your piece. I said the banners wouldn't work. Now, look, we don't know for sure why these guys have left. Obviously, the press releases and all that have came out. They're saying that they're left of their own accord, etc., etc. We can believe that. You don't need to believe that. It's up to you. I do think, however, the banners and the fan pressure must have had some sort of impact because, you don't get 2 guys leaving the club in that short space of time when they've been under that amount of pressure if it hasn't got anything to do with that pressure. So I'm not saying holding up the banners 100% caused it, but I think it definitely did have an impact. So I'm sorry, as you said, Alec, the power of the banner. So I'm really, really sorry to everybody. that I offended for saying that it
Don't dare
wasn't
apologise, because they'll just be putting banners out for everything now. You know what I mean? Didn't he win a treble? Get rid of the board. You know, I don't know. I think if they were swithering, if these guys were swithering in any way, if the chairman or whatever was swithering about whether to get rid of them or not, that's maybe made the difference. You know, I can't help thinking there's a wee element of everything they've done. A European final, you know, last year, less than a year ago, and this is what I'm getting. I'm walking out at Fir Park, and the whole away end is telling me to F off. They're thinking, aye, okay, I will. You know what I mean? You're just thinking yourself, what more? They'll know the ins and outs. I'm kind of convinced that they've still done generally a really good job. And if they're thinking, well, this is what's going to happen unless we actually have perfection every season, I might as well just chuck it, you know. So I wouldn't be hard on yourself, mate, for thinking that wasn't going to get rid of anybody, but it seems to have done, you know.
No, but I think in terms of the sort of the board and where we've been recently, I kind of compare it to the actual Rangers squad, where I think they've had a job to do in this part of our history to get us back up to the level of being a championship winning team again, getting to a European final. But just because they've done that doesn't mean that they're the people to take Rangers forward into consistently winning year in, year out. And I think that's kind of where they are. You know, we've probably done it a year or two too late, certainly with the squad. I think that's 100% sure. Probably with the board as well. I think there's a lot of similarities where it's probably just going a wee bit stale. It's kind of the same when you look at the players. We don't have bad players.
Exactly the same.
It's up there where,
and it might be time to move on. It certainly is time to move on in terms of squad and maybe with these directors and that. But it's the way it's done. It's the being hounded at the door the second you're not of any use. There's got to be I think there's a real problem at Rangers before 2012. It's been there for a long, long time. A kind of lack of gratitude. You know, this kind of, we want you to be here. All the way up to 55, you know what it's like when we come back into top flight, especially it ratcheted up a few gears. You are going to be absolute legends if you can get us to 55. And they did it. And I think a lot of the players, especially the non-Scottish ones, looked around the second they didn't beat Malmo the following season to get into the Champions League. And it started then. Get yourselves to, you know what I mean? And they're thinking, what happened to the legends? It's how much credit do I get in the bank? And I think it's something I don't really like. I like the fact that we're no mawkish, that we don't try and blame referees and all that for our failings, but the way we set about our own people sometimes, I think it's a bit previous at times, and it's a bit harsh. But of course, if that's what it takes to get the club turned around and get us winning titles again, then I suppose them that have put out the banners will think job done, you know.
Aye, well, job done indeed. At the end of the day, people have gotten what they wanted, so it's definitely a new dawn anyway. The club, lots of changes, and you can even go back to the manager as well, which is possibly the most important position at the club. James Bisgrove obviously coming in now. Tweeted the other day, I'm pretty happy with James Bisgrove coming in. This is a guy who, throughout his career, because yes, I have been stalking his LinkedIn page, guys, but not just at Rangers, but throughout his professional career, he's grew, he's got promoted, he's enhanced companies that he's been with, including UEFA, which I'll get onto a wee bit. And I know obviously I mentioned that in the group chat the other day, Alec, but Bisgrove, when he came in, you know, was promising a lot of things. You know, he got the kit deal with Castore over the line. And I know people are saying, they released 1,000 kits a year. At the end of the day, they're paying big money for a kit deal that we just got out of with all the stuff with Humo and stuff like that. And what have you. So it was a pretty decent deal at the time in terms of money coming in. Edmondson House has got that done. I know you'll get people saying it's a vanity project, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, I think investing in infrastructure is something that Rangers have got to do. Celtic have always got an advantage because they've got 10,000 more seats at Celtic Park. So we need to look at bridging income gaps one way or the other. One thing that James Bisgrove has done is pretty much wipe out the gap between Rangers and Celtic in terms of commercial revenue. And in fact, if you look at the last financial year, Kieran Maguire, the Price of Football guy, actually will explain it a lot better than me if you want to listen to him. But Rangers actually made more commercial revenue than Celtic last year. And the only reason that in the books it will show that Celtic have more is because of the way that Celtic count their commercial revenue in terms of a kit deal. So a perfect example of that is, say you sell a kit for 50 quid, Celtic count that full 50 quid as turnover, whereas say you buy it for 25 quid, Rangers only count the £25 made in profit. So Celtic have basically done it a way where they can, they can make their commercial income look more. It is perfectly legitimate. It's perfectly legal. Don't worry, guys. We're not going to start making Twitter pages about the expose of the dodgy Celtic Adidas kit deals. But at the end of the day, that income bridge has been completely wiped out, considering I think we were like, God knows where we were in like 2018, 2019 commercially anyway. You look at the way that he's operated things, it's been pretty good. He's promised things and he's pretty much delivered everything. And one thing for me that, as the whole Sydney stuff, and he was the one that brought that to the table, absolutely. But he's a commercial director. It's his job to bring ideas to the club that will make money. And when you're offered money there, that's, I think, more than double what the annual Scottish Premier League TV deal is. Why would he not go to that? He wasn't the one that signed off on that. He's not a Rangers fan, so it should have been the other directors that kind of knew about that to put the foot down. And in terms of respect him in that way, the reason I do that is because he was the only one who actually came out and basically faced the music. He was the one that was going out to fan media giving interviews. He was the one going out to the mainstream media giving interviews, telling it how it was. So for me, Alec, I'm really impressed with the guy. He's someone who, as I say, he's done well at everything that he's done in life. He's young, he's ambitious, he's hungry, he's got contacts in a lot of great places, and I think it's a great appointment, to be honest.
Aye, it's a touch of the kind of Anfield boardroom of old, but to all the reference for yourself, Craig, but they used to promote from within, and it tended to work, and the guys that were getting promoted were doing well. This isn't a case of we've just grabbed the nearest guy and said, do you want to fill in this job for us? This is a man who's earned this slot. As you say, he comes across great, Craig. And the thing, kind of harking back to what I was talking about in terms of supporter attitudes, this kind of knee-jerk thing that we get on board really quickly. Did that arrange the Australia friendly just start the Sydney Cup thing just after we'd failed to get into the Champions League, and everybody was going on about the money. We've not got the money, and this is what we got to a European final, and then that wasn't good. I can't remember. Maybe it was the season before. I can't actually remember correctly. But the guy, he's hearing the supporters wanting money. You've chucked away this chance of money, Rangers. Everybody's an accountant when it comes to supporting Rangers. As you're alluding to, everybody that hates us is an accountant as well when it comes to their tax and all that. But he's responded to the need for cash. He's like, right, okay, it's all about the cold hard cash with their support. Here's this friendly. They're offering the money, and then suddenly he's getting that back in his face as well. And as you say, he manned up to it. He stood up to it. He took it on board, and he came out and he spoke to the supporters, and he comes across well. I'm not a big fan of
commercialisation of football.
A smooth old businessman, Yes. But I don't. The commercialisation of football, I don't really.
Ultra commercialisation of football.
The kind of against modern football stuff isn't really doing me, because that's part of the appeal of football. Like your rugby types, your rugby union types, your kind of posh types don't want to talk about the cash while they're making much more than anybody else. While they're all being super posh. It's the glamour of football, I think, is it's a kind of working class game, and we've always loved talking money. You can, do your football history, go right back to first £10,000 transfer, first £100,000 transfer. It's always been the same. I've loved talking dough, and that's I'm quite happy to have people in there who make the money for us. I loved David Murray doing that. For every fiver they spend, we'll spend a tenner and all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely suited me fine, and obviously Murray. All ends horrendously with David Murray, but then we've got the biggest shyster of the lot in Craig White coming in. And then for me, it's been a kind of less and less since less and less of a cowboy since then. With the Charles Green stuff and all that. He just did a job that needed doing, and then you get the Easdales not getting involved. And I'm not going to say anything against them in a public forum, but you're kind of looking at dodgy characters, and then we get the board in that we've got the new, and Bisgrove was another step up. And you're quite right with maybe the kit deal isn't perfect and what have you, but when you look where we were in 2012 and what we've got to, you can see the club getting dragged up. And Edmiston House, a total vanity project, but that's what we're all about: winning league titles and getting to European final. That's what Rangers are. We're trying to be the biggest and the best in this country. We usually are over a few devastating years, and we're getting back to that. And I'm really, really proud, really emotional about Edmiston House it might, if we get beaten Sunday, it'll just be a big warehouse. It'll just be a big waste of time, but if we win on Sunday and it's everybody's behind Michael Beale again and we're looking like we're going forward, Edmiston House is part of the whole package. And I've really felt it. I remember a couple of years ago, the late, went tragically early, we lost Ali Dawson. I remember going to a game, 2018ish or something like that. I think maybe before Gerrard arrived. And it was a rainy Sunday. We're already well out, the running for the title. And there was Ali Dawson standing outside the front. He's got the full gear on and he's giving it Laudy, just a great chat about his days as a player. And puts basically a car park, outside the mist. And this is for a club of our size, support we've got. This is absolutely embarrassing. Plus, the fact that he could have been doing that, Ali Dawson. We've now got, Nico Raskin's injured and he's inside Edmiston House giving, a chat to the players, to the fans before games. And we've got all the punters inside Edmiston House under shelter. We've got the players in there as well, up on a stage, being given the proper treatment. It just creates a feeling of pride, and I think even before we had all that, Bisgrove we had, DJs, outside the back of the Copland and what have you. You're getting the whole kind of, pop-up shops, your wee food courts and all that kind of stuff going on.
Bring back the Rangers karaoke with Andy Cameron.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't have that, mate. I'm not saying it was as good as that. Nothing's going to be as good as that. But it feels good. We feel like a proper club, a proper kind of. We're making money as well as creating a great spirit amongst the support. And Bisgrove's been really central to that. And I'm quite happy to see him moving on up.
No, absolutely. And a nice wee Primal Scream reference there as well, even though he's a Celtic fan, but that's not the point. Right, that's we'll end it there on Bisgrove, just because I know obviously we were a wee bit late, so we can leave other things for all day. Right, before we talk about the game, I just want to talk about the transfer rumours recently, Alex. So obviously, been linked with a lot of Championship players or lower Premier League players lately. Your Kieran Dowells, your Willocks, your Lyndon Dykes, blah blah blah. Now Michael Beale came out today at the press conference. He said he wanted to stop the Willock rumour, saying that he wasn't going to take advantage of a poor situation at QPR. Well, I mean, I don't know if that means that he thinks that they're going to be skint if they get relegated into League One, and he would feel bad poaching their best players. I mean, I would actually feel great doing that. That's kind of what you're supposed to do as the bigger Rangers. But, Willock and Dykes, if Beale says he's not going to go to QPR, then obviously they two are not going to be signing. Butland and Dowell seem to be the ones on people's lips. Before we get into Butland, because I think that looks like it is going to happen, I've seen a lot of things on Twitter the last few days where it's like, it's lazy going after players like this. It's a Championship, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I'm kind of looking at it and thinking, well, Michael Beale knows that market. Why would you shop in that market? Was it lazy recruitment at Celtic when Postecoglou brought in Kyogo and Hatate and Maeda from Wenigum at their time in Japan? You can find gems in the English Championship. Now, I don't want all of our signings in the summer to be free agents from the English Championship, but if you look at some of the two of the three biggest assets that we sold in the last few years, Aribo and Bassey, came from sort of either youth development in England or, well, in Aribo's case, actually League One. I think Charlton just got promoted to the Championship by the time that we signed him before Lee Boyer had his meltdown, but there's gems there. Even look at Celtic, they brought in Matt O'Reilly for MK Dons for League One. There is gems down there. For me, I think Michael Beale's doing the right thing. If you know a market, stick to it, especially when, we've not got a director of football at the moment that's kind of ready to oversee things.
Aye, absolutely. I think we're trying to catch up at the moment with a club who, as you say, and a manager who did really well in the Japanese J League, knew that market really well, obviously, took what he needed, knew how it compared to the Scottish League, and he took what he needed, and he's been drilling them for 2 years. They'd be slow 6 months getting off the ground, and then he pumped us that time at Parkhead, 3-0 in February last season, and he's been battling on ever since then. So we've got a manager who knows his only previous managerial job is in the Championship in England. So that's a market he knows as well as any. He's going to go in there if he and it's at the end of the day though, that's just if anybody has a problem with that, I don't see why they would, because he's just doing the same thing basically as our friend across the city. I don't really care where the players come from at the end of the day. You know what I mean? If he's good and I think Michael Beale, the one thing we were talking about earlier, he looks like a guy who loves it And he obviously, we're Raskin as well. He's not a guy for the Championship. He's coming for the Jupiler League in Belgium. He obviously wants to get a hold of them. He wants to see them. He's pointed this out himself. He wants to talk to the players themselves and find out, just get an idea of what their attitude's like. I'm kind of in a situation, I can feel Dougie reaching through the screen to try and get a hold of me because I'm not that bothered. The rumours and what have you. I just want it done and I want to know who it is. And I'm in a situation just now where I trust Michael Beale as a manager to get the players that he wants. I'm actually quite excited about seeing what his system's going to be because I think just now he's obviously trying to walk the line between saying to supporters, listen, this isn't my team. You know, even though he's a responsibility for all the players that are there through his first time with Gerrard, he's just saying, I'm getting this changed in the summer. We're going to get a proper pre-season into what's left and we're going to get a few signings in. He's got a different vision for things altogether, but he doesn't want to say that too harsh, I don't think, because he's going to upset the guys who are leaving in the summer. When he's still going to try and get a couple of performances out of them at least before the end of this season. But I think I'm looking forward to seeing who Beale's going to bring in. So I'm quite happy just knowing he's in charge of it. He's in charge of recruitment. I'm a bit worried, as I said earlier on, he talked, was at last week's press conference, say it was 10% extra work. It's just 10% extra work for me to go and to get involved with every aspect of signing first team players. But as Rangers manager, he doesn't have a spare 10%. No. You know, he's got enough on his plate just getting the team sorted for every game. So, well, I'm concerned about the time he's put into it. I'm really happy that it's Beale that's in charge of recruitment just now, and I think he'll get exactly what he wants. And Cantwell and Raskin, particularly Cantwell, who I was doing the very thing I'm talking about. He's going English Championship. He's struggling to get English Champ. I don't really rate that, you know. And he's come in. He's been absolutely phenomenal. You're apologising about the banner. Well, I'll apologise. I'm constantly going to be apologising about that because I didn't rate Cantwell at all, and he's been absolutely tremendous. So I'm quite happy with hitting that market. And I don't really, it's the same as yourself, mate. QPR, I went to Loftus Road once. There wasn't a game or anything like that. I just went, I was trying to get in just to see the ground, couldn't get in, but I went into the club shop, and the most confusing thing I've ever read in my life. They had this thing above all these week kind of, messages for the players, quotes for famous QPR players, and I think, was it John Hollis? And the quote was, every time I pulled on the hoops, I knew I was a Ranger. And I was just, I stood there for about half an hour. I think they had to throw me out. I was just like, what? Just didn't make any sense to me at all, So they're a bit weird, calling themselves Rangers and wearing hoops. No, just raid them if you've got to, Michael.
Well, if you're freaked out by that, then Pete Doherty, the famous QPR fan, when he was reading that quote, how do you think he felt? He would have been extremely confused.
Maybe that's what put him on the drugs in the first place.
It might have been. Maybe that's what put him towards Kate Moss. But anyway, Jack Butland, before we move on to Sunday, he's somebody that I wanted to talk about. Everybody's probably seen everybody's probably seen my tweet as if I'm like Twitter famous. I assume most of the Gersnet community has seen my tweet the other day where I said I'm not overly convinced by him. I've not really changed my mind, to be honest. Look, he's 30 years old. He clearly had a very, sort of a good solid start. I think he started with Birmingham, obviously moved on to Stoke and stuff like that. But for me, the guy's not played properly in about 3 years. He's had really bad injury issues in the past. He's obviously at Man United now. I know a lot of people are saying he's a backup goalie. He's a third choice goalie. He's only been brought in because for the Europa League you need quotas of English players. If you look at Chelsea signing Rob Green a few years ago as well, Man City signed Trevor Carson. No, Trevor Carson. The other Carson goalkeeper.
Frank.
No, him. Scott Carson, that was it. But aye, so you're seeing that pattern with like big English teams signing basically about to be retired English goalkeepers so that it gets a quote up and stuff like that. Now I know Butland's nowhere near retired, but your Cantwell one. The reason why I wasn't bothered about Cantwell, right, is because look at his age. He's about 24, 25. He's got a lot to give. Now, look, Butland's only 30 for a goalkeeper. That's dead young. But, Cantwell had at least played football in the last 3 years. Maybe not very well, or maybe not in the way that he wanted to, but he was still playing. I don't know if this is the guy that we should be going for. Now, people call me a hypocrite because people say, who should we go for? I genuinely don't know. And I'm actually one of these people. I don't like it when people turn around and say, oh, well, I don't like this, I don't want that. And then when you're asked, well, what do you want? And you say, I don't know, it's not my job to do it, I'm not paid the money to do it. I actually believe that. I'm just saying I genuinely can't think of another alternative to Jack Butland. That's the only thing. I understand the way that budgets work, but I don't know. I'm just not 100% sure of it.
No, I mean, I'll obviously take your word for all the stats, because I haven't looked into him at all. Butland, and as you say, it's just the fact that you don't really know about him off the top of your head. You know, you've heard the name, obviously, like you're saying, because you had his wee moment a wee while ago. You're not thinking he's great. Again, I'm going to do the cop out and saying that Beale must, see something, if he's going to get him on board. And the one thing I would say, which is a horrible thing to say, like I'm talking about this whole thing with Rangers supporters being a bit lacking in gratitude, I would never want that. I never want Alan McGregor to think I don't thank him for every brilliant save he's pulled up for Rangers down the years. Absolute hero, best Rangers goalkeeper of my life. But we've seen how bad he's been this season. But we're basically looking at if somebody can come off their line, if Butland can do the drills in training where he comes off his line for a crossbar across the 6-yard box, whatever, that'll do for me. That's going to be a major improvement. So you say 30-year-old, injury history or not, it's still a lot younger than our two first-choice goalies just now. Robbie McCrory hasn't appeared again. I know he's his injury problems and that of late, but he's obviously no fancied, albeit he is the last Rangers goalkeeper to keep a clean sheet in an all-firm game. But I don't think Robbie McCrory's coming back as first choice, even if he is getting a run out towards the end of the season. Maybe Butland isn't going to be first choice, if he comes in. But I'm no particularly excited, but I've learnt my lesson for the Cantwell thing. If Beale has sussed it out and thinks he's the man, thinks he's going to do a job for him, well, then that'll do for me, because he's certainly had plenty of chances. He's certainly had plenty of time Beale to look at what he's got, and I think he's let it slip. Basically, that McGregor's away, and I don't think McLaughlin's maybe going to get that much a look in either. So I'm not excited about it, mate. It's no one that excites me, but then I wasn't excited about Cantwell, and he's been different level. So I'll just take the manager's word on this one.
I mean, the only thing for me is it just screams of Butland making a couple of high-profile errors in the first couple of games of the season, and then Ross McCrory. Well, Ross McCrory up until 2 years ago actually made more goalkeeping appearances than his brother, but it just screams at Butland with a couple of high-profile errors, and then Robbie McCrory coming in as number one after that. Which, by the way, if that does happen, could be good, because Robbie McCrory, he's a weird one. I know people are making the comparisons to Alan McGregor because they were about the similar ages when McGregor was breaking through into the first team when Letizia was Gough and Kloss was injured. But I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that because of how bad the goalkeeping situation's been the last year and a bit, that if he was going to play, he would have played by now. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I think next season for Robbie McCrory, we'll know 100% if he's going to be here for the long term as number one or no. But we'll just need to wait and see. And listen, I want to be proved wrong, because if we sign Jack Butland and he's an amazing goalkeeper, I mean, I'll be coming out and apologising every week. But if me apologising every week means that Rangers have got a great goalkeeper, then I'll apologise every week for the rest of my life. I don't care. And we've actually got a good history of goalkeepers. I mean, apart from
I think that's it. Brian made that point last week, didn't he? Brian, one of the pods, I can't remember if it was a Friday night or a Sunday night one, but Brian Archer was talking about the fact we've been spoilt for choice with goalies. I can remember, again, I don't want to be harsh on somebody, the only Rangers goalkeeper to win a European medal. Peter McCloy was the last kind of, I hate to say it, but a goalkeeper for Rangers that you weren't 100% confident in. We've really been spoiled, Not obviously that you had moments with Stefan Kloss had a bit of a problem with long range shots and that kind of thing, but you've really been spoiled, for Chris Woods, Stefan Kloss, Andy Gorham, obviously just like the greatest goalkeeper I'd ever seen, just and what he could do. And it was only McGregor's kind of length of service when he came back for his second spell. The second spell, it really took him past Gorham for me in terms of the greatest I'd ever seen. But we've been really spoiled. So maybe it's just, I think we don't want it, Ange ball's been used, so we don't want to get down the Beale ball or whatever, but I think there is a money ball aspect to what Michael Beale's going to be doing. So you're maybe looking at, if you've actually seen the film Moneyball, I think it was the best in the book. I never read the book, but basically, the baseball thing, you're just picking somebody who fits in and has got a certain amount of stats. I find it hard, like yourself, to see what the stats are that make us think we should sign Buckland when he's got such an injury history and a history of clangers. But I think we might have to get used to players being not as glamorous within themselves, but fitting into a Beale system that I've got a bit of confidence in just now.
Well, certainly got confidence in him, and as we say, just need to trust the guy to go with his job, and hopefully that will continue. But that's enough of that. We've got a game on Sunday. It's a pretty big game. It's probably the biggest game of the season, so we do need to talk about it. Right, yep. I did tell you before we were on air, Alec, that I had some stats for you. This is the 13th Old Firm Scottish Cup semi-final. Sorry, the 12th. Well, no, there's been 12. This is the 13th. I'm getting mixed up with my own stats. Rangers have won 7 compared to Celtic's 5. So, who will be the unlucky or lucky number 13? Todd Cantwell, maybe?
Hey.
Could you be the lucky 13? Rangers, of course, won the last semi-final about a year ago this week. I think it was about this week, a year ago. That was a brilliant day. I was saying to Frankie off air, that was one of the best ends at Hampden I've ever been at. That was a brilliant atmosphere that day. Rangers, of course, famously have won the only Old Firm penalty shootout if it was to go all that way back in 2016 as well. So, how's your Romans for Sunday, guys? Look, there's no getting away from it. It's a huge game. In a way, is it bigger than the League Cup final, even though that was a final? Quite possibly, just because of, this is like a last chance to win something this season. At least after the League Cup final, we were technically, we weren't out of the league yet, but this is a last chance to win something this season. And do you know what? I'm quite confident going into it because, weirdly enough, I know we've all spoke about how these players have let us down in the big moments, but in a weird way, they've no let us down in some aspects as well, because it seems to be, when it comes to stopping Celtic doing something, these players step up. 2020, 2021, stopping Celtic winning 10 in a row. Last year, 21-22, stopping Celtic win a treble. 22-23, stopping Celtic win a treble. So that might be the motivation for these players. For me, the motivation needs to be, well, you're a Rangers player, it's a Scottish Cup semi-final, you're playing Celtic, that is the only motivation that you need. But it's weird, these players, like I've said time and time again, Alec, I've never known a group of players to give you the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and we can sit here and talk about tactics, shape, formation, etc. until the cows come home, but at the end of the day, we just don't know what Rangers team's going to turn up on Sunday, do we?
No, I would say in terms of, since Michael Beale's arrived, you kind of know exactly what you're getting. Up until last Sunday, you knew exactly what you're getting. That was, they're going to beat everybody else, and then they're not going to be able to do it against Celtic. And taking the games aside, the 3 games he's had so far against Celtic, Beale, I think we made a catastrophic mistake, defensively. At least about 5 different players made a catastrophic mistake in the first 5 minutes against Celtic in January, let them take the lead straight away. We're chasing the game, but we managed to turn it around. We're beating them, and then I think it was a bad substitution by Beale, bringing on James Sands in that game late on, trying to be defensive. Sands was kind of slipping up. He was falling over the place like straight away. It was too much for him. It wasn't just doing to him, it was just doing to that boy, no harm to him. But we're close, but no cigar. The League Cup final, we played really, I think that's the poorest we've played in any of the 3 games under Beale.
Never showed up against
them. We had a spell, maybe 10-20 minutes, where we 10 to 15 minutes in the second half where we looked like we're properly going for it. I think most of the second half we actually had most of the ball on that, but it wasn't going anywhere for about a good half hour, 20 minutes. But that was it. It wasn't anywhere near good enough. In the last 5 minutes of that game, the injury time, we're trying to punt the ball up the park, just to for want of a better expression, a Hail Mary. We couldn't even manage that. Celtic were just taking the ball off. They should have scored another couple at the end of that game. But I think that the central problem with that game, everybody's saying he didn't put Raskin and Cantwell on at the start, but that was they'd just arrived, and it was just after our best performance under Beale at that point had been the 4-1 win at Tynecastle, and he put that team out. He fielded that team, and he went with guys who are more experienced. And you had at that point, we're talking about how great a game it was last season, 17th of April last year when we beat them in the Scottish Cup semi-finals. It's just over a year since we've beat these Bampots, but it was the one and only Lundstrom was absolutely phenomenal that day. So it's kind of, you can't, he's back in the same situation that Celtic at Hampden, so you can see why Beale, is playing him. But I wasn't too unhappy with that. But I think the game at Parkhead, 3 massive individual errors. Clancy, then our 2 centre halves make massive errors. Other than that, he showed, I think, particularly first kind of up until Alfie basically had his perfectly good goal disallowed. We showed that we had a kind of measure of them. We knew how to stop them. And even when we were lined up that free kick deep into injury time at the end, I was convinced we were going to put it in, because I think we really looked like it was just kind of ding dong game that day. It was we were given as good as we were getting for the most part. So I was hoping we're now getting to that point where this is the one. It's not about what's on the game, what's at stake. It's just we're getting to that point where we know them. We're getting better every time we play them. Against them, and we're going to do the business. I just don't know. I'm kind of too old. I remember various games where you're going a bad run against Celtic. You need a win against Celtic for all sorts of reasons, and you usually slip up in the game before it, as if you've got your eye up, as if the team are actually concentrating. They're concentrating too much in the Celtic game coming up, and you end up getting a performance against Aberdeen at Pittodrie, for example, like we did last week, because they're thinking about the Old Firm game, and that's actually a good thing, because it means they've got it in the tank. That's what they're looking for. They're focused on beating Celtic, and I was hoping, I was almost, when Celtic slipped up on Saturday and drew, a part of me was actually thinking, right, we need to get beat, because they know what's happening here. They know they're concentrating on the Old Firm game. It's almost like we need to do even worse tomorrow. But of course, when you see the reality of us doing worse up at Aberdeen, you're like, no. And my only worry that goes against this whole kind of, it's cumulative and we're getting there and we're due a win against them, is because we have players who I think are obviously leaving in the summer. And I'm just wondering, from their point of view, are they really that bothered? Because a lot of them are seriously used to it. Like before Beale arrived, like you're talking about, they're letting you do all the time. They're seriously used to doing that. That's kind of in their bones. Just as with Celtic, it's in their bones to always beat us, or always get a result over the past kind of year and a half. So I'm a bit worried about that for that aspect, but I'm neither super confident nor chucking the towel in. I just don't. You never chuck the towel in anyway. Once you get in the stadium, you want to. Some of the build up this week as well. When you see some of the pattern and all that, you're like, "Fuck, let's do this." Come on, it's just wake up. And I think there's a bit of Celtic cockiness there as well, and I don't think they're good enough to be that cocky. So
there 100% is, and the thing is, I'm not coming out here saying that the Celtic players or management are being cocky, because I actually don't think that's the case at all. Joe Hart, I think after one of the games that they beat us, well, I think it was maybe even the 4-0 game earlier, he's coming out, obviously you've just gubbed us 4-0, you would expect to be this and the next thing. He's gone, no, like they're a good team, they just got to the Europa League final and stuff like that, kind of talking us up, which is, I think from the management and the players of Celtic, I don't think the cockiness is there. The fans, however, the less said the better, because we all know what they're like, and
they've always been the same. It's like their character, you're kind of in your face characters. Oh, what are we like? We're super jokey until you put it to them, and then it's like, oh my god, referee, fucking conspiracy. I mean, so I would never worry about them. They're easily turned round. I do actually think Postecoglou seems to be really ratty really quickly, and considering how they've been doing the past couple of seasons, winning like two the 3 trophies each season. I hope it stays at that rate. You think, why is the guy so edgy? I think there's a definite kind of fragility there, and I don't think it would take much for us to push them over the edge. Basically, I think I could see them having a really bad game, if it's not going their way. But we've got to do something about it. We've got to make that happen, and I just worry that we've got a couple of players that are just kind of on their way, and also worry just from a personnel point of view. Beale talking today about Goldson and Kent, just kind of they're back in training, we'll just need to wait and see. I'm like, don't know what, maybe it's just a bit of mind games, they're absolutely fine and they're ready to go. But
I think it is. I think they'll both be fine. I think obviously Goldson's going to be the more pivotal one out of the two. I mean, Ryan Kent again. This guy he's so infuriating. It's the same with Alfredo Morelos, and I've said it a few times. Right now, as it stands, as it stood for quite a while, I've been like, no, do not renew their contracts. But do you know what? See if for whatever reason their contracts get renewed, I'm going to be absolutely buzzing at the same time. Do you know what I mean? That's what they do. More so Morelos, and it's weird because I think when Bale first came in, you know, if you were looking at the two, people are saying, "Oh well, Kent's looking a lot better now. He's blah 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 blah. Morelos still isn't looking his best. We need Kent in a new contract. We need him." Then you look at his performances the last two Old Firm games where he's been non-existent. And actually, out of the two of them, if you look at their form, you'd probably rather take Morelos now than Kent.
I think Colin summed this one up for me. He hit it. I'm exactly the same as you, Craig. Example, the game against Celtic at Parkhead, Alfie, has the goal disallowed, perfectly good goal. I found myself, I did a post-match reaction pod or something, and I think it's because I'd been contemplating, I'd been saying to Colin, do you think maybe we could go without Morelos, at Parkhead? Then I felt bad saying it, but it was like so kind of slow in that, and I'm just wondering other options, having Cantwell and Tillman the same team, blah blah blah. And I'd been talking about maybe dropping them, and Colin said no, he couldn't see it, and sure enough, that's what happened. And I ended up at the end of the game, I remember doing a wee pod and saying, look, I just wanted, because I'd said that Alfredo Morelos could get dropped for this game and I wouldn't be bothered. I wanted to single him out for some praise because he had that goal disallowed. You know how he reacts to opposition supporters. There's no Rangers supporters in the stadium, 60,000 folk goading him. And he had a couple of chances in the second half and he didn't put either of them away, but he kept himself. And I just suddenly went, Alec, you're praising Alfredo Morelos for no getting sent off. That's supposed to be a given. That's no worthy of praise. I'm so used to his flaws that I was like, I would really expect Alfredo to get sent off a day. The fact that he missed a couple of sitters in the second half, they seem to bother me anymore. And I think you're almost being kind of institutionalised. I know exactly what you mean about this squad and about Kent Morelos, sum it up more than anybody else, where you're half of you is like, yeah, we need them. Another half of you is like, I think they're done, it's time to go. And it was Colin said, I think, last Sunday night's pod, it's when you think about Kent might go to England, he could go to top half of the Championship, lower half of the Premier League in England, and the wages it would be offering. Do you want Rangers to match those wages? Do you want Rangers to be forking out that kind of money to keep Kent? And suddenly, because I'm very much, I do think that if you watch a game back, if you watch it back for a second time without the emotion attached, you notice Ryan Kent doing a lot more things than you notice at the time. The numbers thing, I think, is overstated. You do want more goals from him. You should have more goals from him. But I think the game against Motherwell was a case in point a couple of weeks back, 3 or 4 weeks back, where we won 4-2, and he was involved in 3 of the goals. But he's getting the pass before the assist, so he's not getting a number kind of thing. And opposition managers rate Ryan Kent a lot more than the Rangers support do. They always double down on him, which I think, contributes a lot to him looking quieter at times when he's actually pulling us right up the park and keeping opposition defences occupied in a way that none of our other players do. And I like this new role he's got where he's not so much focused on being kind of outside left. He's gone all over the place. Kind of sitting in behind 2 strikers almost. I like that, but I know exactly what you mean. I think it's just getting to the point where if the two of them don't do the business, for example, on Sunday, or the two of them play and they have quiet games, that's it, and it will break my heart in a lot of ways. But I think they signify how we're so used to relying on them that I'm almost getting to the point I can't imagine to cope without them. But I think Michael Beale does. And I think when you see in Cantwell and Raskin the future, but we need to get a serious tune out there too on Sunday. And our defence as well, which has been this same goal we've been conceding for the last 2 or 3 months, even under Beale, who I'm getting a lot of faith in. The amount of goals are just knocked in the back of your net for the 6. They're basically on the line almost to the 6-yard box. So the defence needs to step up as well. But there's signs there that they can do the business or not. Everybody's on the cusp. You can see you've got the kind of confidence to a certain extent, but the reality almost doesn't live up to it all the time. So it's touch and go for me, mate. But we've got to do this on Sunday. Got to.
Yeah, I mean, Kent Morelos especially, as you say, they've got to show up, and I think if they show up, we've got every chance. That's what we were saying before. These aren't bad players. I actually think if you compare both Rangers and Celtic squads, leave injuries out it and leave mentality out of it. If you compare them player for player at their best, there's very little between the two squads, in my opinion. There's very little. If you look at a combined 11, they're probably split down the middle.
That's the thing, and that's how you know your mentality is bad. Yeah. Because our best 11 is better on paper than their best 11, but these games only played on paper, and that's in the book. And that's why you're at that stage with, especially like Morelos sums it up better than anybody else. Love him, know he's been brilliant, but I'm sick of the thing that came to me after that League Cup final was I'm sick of waiting. I'm sick of almost making excuses. I know this guy's good. He's done it before. I think he's going to do it again. We need, and for Michael Beale as well, he needs to go into next season with the support behind him, the whole support behind him, and he'll start getting it big time if he can do this on Sunday, because it will basically let that mob win a treble. But apart from that, it just means we're not going to win in this season, and that's kind of bad.
Aye, it's kind of bad. Speaking of kind of bad, a lot of people say kind of bad. I wanted to speak about Malik Tillman, because last week against Aberdeen, he puts a great ball through for Fashion Sakala. Sakala can't score. He then puts a great ball through for Ravi Matondo. Ravi Matondo can't score. And the reason we get beat 2-0 off Aberdeen is because of Malik Tillman. It's not because of the fact that Fashion Sakala and Ravi Matondo can't take their chances and we can't defend. It's because Malik Tillman doesn't track back and he this and the next thing. Look, Malik Tillman, for me, I've said it time and time again, bring him in. He's a quality player. He can do amazing things on the ball. I know people are saying he needs a performance against Celtic. In a weird way, I'm kind of like, does he? I don't know, because at the same time, you need players that can do it against the lesser teams as well. Chris Boyd, perfect example, could never do it against Celtic, but if you take Chris Boyd's goals out of the Rangers team that won, 2 out of the 3 in a row that he was there, we're not winning those leagues if Chris Boyd isn't scoring. So we need guys like that, and also as well, one guy that might be a weird comparison, but look at Tom Rogic, right? People say that Malik Tillman can't do it against Celtic. What was Tom Rogic's first moment in an Old Firm game? Well, he did score in the semi-final. What did he do in the penalty shoot? He skied it.
Aye.
The first season that we were up, Tom Rogic done nothing against us either, didn't score. And then the following season, he just completely, was like Messi against us, doing this, that, and the next thing. Rogic was, 25, 26 in, full Australian internationalist, really experienced player, played in the Champions League, played in tournaments. Malik Tillman's 20 years old. This is his first full season as a professional football player. Some of his numbers is incredible. I mean, his goal against USG, he basically makes a goal as well that gets us into the Champions League for the first time in over a decade. That pays the £5 million back straight away, but I think he's great. Question is, though, Alec, should he start on Sunday? And I'm a wee bit, I don't know if he should start on Sunday, because I would kind of like to see us go with, obviously not the same team, but maybe the same front three as we did in the New Year game in terms of Sakala, Kent, Morelos. I've just got a feeling about Sakala in this game on Sunday.
I've always got a feeling about Sakala.
He basically done the business last year, getting the right side of Starfelt, the wrong side if you're a Celtic fan, but he obviously wasn't great the last game at Hampden, but there's something about him. I just think, it was his final product that let him down at Hampden, to be honest. The only thing is Sakala going to play a week after he's been clean through against Aberdeen? You're going to get people in the comments saying, no, he's this, that, the next thing, but I don't know. I think it would be worth a start.
But this is it. So I'm talking about the kind of the Moneyball aspect that Beale's bringing into it. We've already got that. We've had that for a couple of years. Sakala has got the pace. You want Morelos to have. Morelos is, Cholak, I think, has got the finishing skills, even though he's had a couple of howlers, especially at Fir Park. But I think Cholak's got the finishing skills that you want both Morelos and Sakala to have. We don't have the perfect striker. We don't have, it's that whole thing of if we did, they wouldn't beat Rangers. But for me, when you're playing the percentages, I know Sakala has a howler in the League Cup final last time we played Celtic at Hampden, and obviously had a badging last week. But the shape to put Celtic under pressure, I would drop Morelos if that meant keeping Tillman in the team. I would definitely have Tillman in the team. He's going to cut. I mean, Joe Aribo was slow in his old firm games to start with. We had all that with Joe Aribo. With the same thing. I remember Jorg Alberts. I remember the first time Alberts played against Celtic and thinking, this guy's not up for it. This is a bit too much for him, and it just turns into he loved playing Celtic. He scored all sorts of magnificent goals, iconic goals against Celtic. The last time Tillman played against him at Hampden, he wasn't fit. He'd come back from an injury and he took a wee tap earlier.
Do you know what? Sorry, on that, see that game, right? Tillman made a great ball across, and there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Again, he does his job. Do you know what I mean? It's like it could be quiet the whole game, but he plays that one key pass. Is it his fault that there's nobody on the end of it? No.
I'm talking about managers looking at percentages, the whole kind of Moneyball approach to things, but the supporters should look at the percentages with Tillman. It's no the man's style. He's like an attacking midfield Dave McPherson. Dave McPherson used to look like because he looked like a big giraffe. You're thinking, how can that guy be a defender? Well, he's a goal away for the Champions League final, Dave McPherson. You've got to look at what they're actually achieving as opposed to their style, as opposed to how they look. Malik Tillman, as you say, he's only 20-year-old, Craig. A brand new country. He's kind of half German, half American. He plays for the States. I think he's played for the German youth teams. Obviously, he sounds more German than American. His English doesn't sound that brilliant. He's obviously quite a shy guy, and I don't. It's a terrible thing to say about Scotland and whatever, about anywhere in Britain really. But as a black man, he's going to fit that. That's definitely a harder thing for players. Coming to another country as a black man in a kind of predominantly white country. That's harder from culturally as well. Settling in, and the way Scottish football is. He'll be thinking, we're playing Celtic again. Is that the same up? This is we're not playing them in the league. We're playing the same team 6 times. He's coming for the Bundesliga and that. He's like, he'll not really get it. It's quite difficult to work out the hate that comes to Rangers and the intensity in wee tiny stadiums and what have you. So there's a lot to take on board. And I think he has a language style. He's one of the guys, something you play 5-a-side or something like that, and you play against a guy who plays like juniors or has actually played professional football. The guy seems to be walking, but nobody can get anywhere near him, and I think it's the same thing with Malik Tillman in the SPFL Premiership. He is a cut above. He's taking a bit of time to settle into perfectly, but he's going to do it. And I think it's a major mistake not to play him. He's just a different level. When it comes to what money we're going to fork out on him, how are we going to go above 5 million? Are we going to even try to keep him at Rangers? I don't know, but I would absolutely have him starting. And I would, to be honest, if the whole kind of can you play, can't we land Tillman thing, if that meant dropping Morelos to make sure we had Ryan Kent and we had Sakala as well, I know you might go a bit more defensive in midfield or whatever. I am quite happy to drop Alfie to make sure we've got the pace and we've got the poise. Tillman, Bale's first game in charge, the game against the Hibs, that mental game against Hibs in December at Ibrox. The goalie sets up, was it Ryan Jackie? I can't remember, set up Morelos.
Morelos, the winner.
The feet, we did the quick feet in the box. You can't buy that. That's absolutely amazing. And the boy's capable of that at any time. And you're absolutely right. Him getting the blame for last week is a joke. He's a cut above, and I would absolutely have him in the team. I'll be really upset if he doesn't start on Sunday.
We'll certainly see what happens. And thanks very much for listening, guys. Anyway, I know it's been a wee bit of a late one, but we'll finish up very shortly. Just before we do, Alec, I'll ask you 2 questions. I want one-word answers to both of them, and I stress one-word answers.
What do you mean? I can't do a one-word answer. What makes you think that, mate?
Right, here we go. So, Davies or Suter Sunday?
This is actually killing me. I can't do a one-word answer.
Just say Davies or Suter. I'll say Suter.
Suter.
Okay.
You're assuming Goldson's playing, you know what I mean?
Well, aye. I think Goldson will play, and will Rangers win?
Yes.
Well, that's the best one-word answer you can hope for, guys. Alec, thanks very much for joining me tonight, mate.
Pleasure,
I know it's been a late one, but thanks very much. Obviously, you guys at home, thanks for putting up with us. I hope you have enjoyed that tonight. Obviously, this is live on YouTube at the moment. If you've missed any of the pod, if you've came in late or anything like that, you should be able to rewind it back to the start at any point as well. And also, it should be available on all your podcast providers such as Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts in the next couple of days as well. We'll be back on Sunday to review the game with Scott, Brian, and Stuart. But until then, guys, it's a big one on Sunday, and I hope your team wins. I'll see you later. Bye bye.